Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm better known online as Juniper Jungle. I blog at junipersjungle.com and I've been blogging about books on and off since 2006. I decided this year I wanted to do something different with my reviewing. I decided that I was going to come on over to YouTube and have a go at booktubing. This isn't something I ever planned to do. The idea of putting myself onto YouTube is frankly quite terrifying, but I've decided this year I've got to start being brave. I've got to try some new things, and so here I am. My plan at the moment is pretty simple. I'm going to do a vlog at the end of each month where I will talk about the books that I've been reading, give you a quick review of them, and that's it for now. In the future I might expand this. I might find that I absolutely love this. It suits me far better than writing reviews ever did, and these videos will then come more regularly. The one thing I am considering at the moment is when I get into the swing of reading picture books again, something I tend to sort of fall in and out of favour with, it might be something that I could do videos occasionally where I look at some of the picture books that I've been reading. In a month where I've been and had a picture book reading session, I don't think anybody's going to want to sit through that My Month in Books video. I tend to read them by the 6 or 12 at a time. It's going to be a long job. If seeing a picture book roundup would be something that you'd like to see, let me know and I'll see about adding that in. So January, that month is never one I can quite get my head round. It's the longest month of all and it's dragged by ridiculously this year, I think, and yet in terms of reading it ran past so quickly and I've read very few books. I'm a fast reader. I tend to read a lot of books when I'm in the swing of things. So on an average month I will read anything from around 6 or 7 books to 15, 18 books. January went wrong. Maybe it's because I knew I'd got this video to do and I thought I'd give myself an easy ride. I managed a grand total of 3 books. Not my best moment. That said, I'm going to have a bit of a chat now about those 3 books, and hopefully February will see a few more books and I can get to the gist of things a bit quicker than I'm managing this time. So first up is actually a book that I technically started in 2014. I started it on New Year's Eve thinking it would be my last book of last year, and then I got distracted from it and it took a few days into January to get finished. It was Heatwave by Richard Castle. Yes, that Richard Castle from the TV show. They've released a whole series of books as if Richard Castle himself has written them, and they were in one of the Kindle deals before Christmas, and I thought now might be the time to give them a go. It's not the best written book in the world, I will put my hands up and say that now. It's a bit formulaic, it's a standard crime fare, but what made it really work for me is that the characters in it are very close to the main characters in the TV show Castle, a show I really enjoy. I found very quickly that I was imagining the actors who play the parts in the show as the characters in the book, and that I think definitely added to my enjoyment of it. It was a fairly quick read. If I'd have actually sat down with some peace and quiet with the book and a cup of tea, I'd have raced through it. Like I say, I did really enjoy it. Nothing to set the literary world on fire, but I think enjoying something is far more important a lot of the time, and so it's got a definite thumbs up for me. I've got the next one, which I forget the name of at the moment. I think it might be Naked Heat. I thought I'd give a couple of them a go, so expect to hear my thoughts on that one within the next couple of months. The second book that I read in January took me a really, really long time to read, despite the fact I actually didn't read very much of it at all. It was the anthology Love Hurts, and it's been edited by our current Children's Laureate, Mallory Blackman. It is a collection of short stories and also lots of extracts from existing young adult books, all around the theme of, unsurprisingly based on the title, love that hurts. Some of them are relationships that are challenging for some reason. Some of them are relationships that just aren't going right. I hadn't realised when I requested the book from the publisher that it was such a mixture of short stories and extracts. I had mistakenly expected more short stories, and that isn't what I got. There are only 7 short stories in the whole book. 5 of them are completely new short stories that have been written specifically for this anthology. 2 of them are republications of short stories that have appeared in other anthologies outside of the United Kingdom. So they're brand new to us, but there are people in the world who've read them already. Now, each and every one of these short stories is an absolute gem. I enjoyed each and every one of them. It was really nice to see that between them there is some real diversity being shown in terms of characters and plot lines. The 2 stories that absolutely stood out are those written by Susie Day and by James Dawson. Both of these are authors whose stories I really enjoy always, and these, yeah, they really worked for me. Susie's in particular, which touches a lot on fandom, on Tumblr, on that whole that you can meet and make some really valuable relationships online, and that's a really valid thing to do, which is something I feel quite strongly about. And yeah, this Sherlock themed fandom based story just ticked every box possibly for me. So like I say, the short stories are great. I really enjoyed them. The extracts, I didn't read a single one, I'm afraid. I skipped through them, which on a Kindle with buttons still, one doesn't have a touchscreen, at times it took a lot of clicks to get from story to story. Some of the extracts are from books that I've already read, and I didn't really feel the need to read any of them again. There was a risk with a few that if I read an extract I'd want to go back and read the book, and my to be read bookcase, I don't have a pile, I have a bookcase, I have that many books waiting for me, is so tightly packed at the moment I don't have the time for any rereads. The other extracts were from books I haven't read, and with only 1 or 2 exceptions, they're books that are either sat on the to be read bookcase already, or when I next allow myself to buy some more books, they're high on the list of books that I want to buy, and I don't want to read an extract from a book before I'm reading the book. I'm a real spoiler phobe. I will hide completely from spoilers about anything. I like to see the stories develop in front of me, whether it's in a book, a TV series, even podcasts. I am so far behind on Welcome to Night Vale that I have to scan past anything just in case there might possibly be a spoiler, if even such a thing is possible in the world of Welcome to Night Vale. I'm really not sure, but I'm that much of a spoiler phobe. I'm avoiding them even if they don't exist. So yeah, extracts from books that I'm planning to read, it's not for me. I've seen lots of discussion about this book online, and I'm really glad that I'm only talking about it now, because I've had the time to take on board lots of people's perspectives. There have been a lot of people out there who have been really quite disappointed by it, and there have been people who are really in favour of it and think it's a fantastic anthology. I think I'm sitting somewhere in the middle. It's quite often the position I will take on anything. I have that really useless ability to see things from everybody's sides, and so nobody's side wins. I did start reading the book expecting more new stuff, no doubt about it, and I didn't get the book I was expecting. But I've seen a lot of people suggesting that perhaps readers like me and others who were disappointed in any way with it aren't the target audience for this book. For a young person who isn't reading much YA at the moment, to pick this book up and be able to see so many different sorts of stories represented, such a breadth of diversity represented, so many tasters, it might just help them to find 2, 3, 7 new authors who they're going to go and read the books of these people. And I think that from that perspective, for some readers, absolutely it's going to work like that, and it will probably bring new people into the young adult reading community, and that's brilliant. I think personally I would have liked to have seen it made just a little clearer in the blurb, quite what the proportion of extracts to new stories was. I know if you're buying the book in a bookshop you can flick through, and I would always recommend doing that. I live in the rural West Midlands. My nearest bookshop is about 40 minutes drive away. It's not always possible for me to buy my books in a physical bookshop, no matter how much that's how I want to buy my books. Sometimes buying them online is pretty much my only option, that or waiting until I finally go to the nearest place with a big bookshop, and then I have to hope that the book's on the shelf in any case. So the blurb to me is something that's really important, because I don't always have that luxury of flicking through a book before I buy it. So yeah, I would have liked it to have just been a little clearer about the breakdown of what was in the book, and then for me it would be a big thumbs up. I might possibly not have decided to request the book from the publishers if I'd known what the breakdown of the content was. If I hadn't have requested it, I would have missed out on those fantastic short stories. So that would have been a shame. But the drag of having to keep flicking through because the extracts weren't for me did mean that it took me a really long time to read 7 short stories, and definitely contributed to the fact that I only read 3 books this month. I say it feels a bit fraudulent to claim 3 books because one of them I only read, I would guess at 35 to 40%, but I haven't done the maths, so that's just a gut feeling. The last book I read in January was brilliant. I've seen a lot of blurb around this book online, lots of talk on Twitter, and I got just a little bit scared that it wasn't going to live up to the hype. The more something's hyped, the more scared I get about it. It's been the case so many times that I've seen things bigged up all over the place, I've picked them up, and they have just been doomed to fail because nothing can live up to that hype. That's how I was starting to feel about A Hero at the End of the World by Erin Claiborne. Now this book is really interesting to me before I'd even cracked open the spine. Can you still say that if you're reading an ebook? I'm not sure. Before I'd even started reading the very first page, I was really interested in this book. It is the first book published by Big Bang Press, who are a new indie publisher who used Kickstarter, I think, one of the crowdfunding websites anyway, to set up this independent press. And it aims to find the best in fandom writing, so fan fiction writers particularly, and bring them to a more mainstream audience, writing using original characters, original plots, and giving them the opportunity to take that next step as a writer. I have lots of thoughts and feelings on fan fiction. Pretty much every single one of them is at least a little positive. Most of them are really positive. I might talk about that in another vlog. It's something I have plenty to say about. But moving on to the book. Erin Claiborne is well known in fandom, and so there's a lot of delight when her book was going to be the first one to be published by Big Bang Press. Now Hero at the End of the World is a take on the hero narrative, but it looks at it differently. It's all about the chosen one, but when the chosen one doesn't fulfill the prophecy and somebody else does it for them. So you have these 2 lads, and growing up, Ewan has been the one who the prophecy says he is going to kill this big bad and he will save the world and all of those sorts of things. So far so familiar. But when the time comes, it's his best friend Oliver who actually does the deed and kills this big bad and saves the world. We see this at the very beginning of the book, and then we rejoin the characters a few years later, and Oliver is obviously this hero. he's got the job, he's got the lifestyle, and Ewan is working in a coffee shop, adjusting to the fact that this wonderful life he was supposed to have now belongs to his best friend, or former best friend. It is a great world that Erin has built, magic galore. I really enjoyed it. It's very urban fantasy in its feel. As I say, plenty of magic, feels like our world just with then a bit more added to it. The action sort of obviously dips in and out like you would expect, and when the big final sequence kicks in, and this is quite a long sequence of action, it's absolutely brilliant and just shows the breadth of imagination that Erin has. It's difficult to explain why without giving away the plot, but I can say that our characters, and by this stage there are 5 that we're really sort of tracking, they find themselves in scenario after scenario after scenario, and each one is just distinct and brilliant, and they tick so many of those sort of urban fantasy boxes you'd want to see, but never in a right, got that one done, got that one done. There's no feel of that to it. It feels fresh and exciting, and I really, really enjoyed it. It makes me want to go back and find some of Erin's fan fiction, because despite how much fan fiction I have read in my life, and it's ever such a lot, I've never read any of Erin's work, and so to tide me over until the next book arrives, I think that's probably what I will be doing, and going back to read some of her earlier work. I really recommend this book. It, I think, is billed as young adult, and I would agree with that, though it's got definitely that sort of crossover feel. It's got a foot in the young adult camp, it's got a foot in the adult camp. I think it will be enjoyed by both audiences. It's about that time post-school, which would set it as new adult, but it's a bit short on a lot of the characteristics that new adult has taken on, so I definitely wouldn't give it that label. I would say it's young adult with crossover appeal. It's fun, it's fast, and I really recommend it. So those are the 3 books I read in January 2015. As I say, not as many books as I would expect to read in a normal month, and hopefully I will read more in February and have a few more books to rattle through. Thanks for putting up with my rambling for my first vlog. I think it got a little away from me in the middle. These will obviously get better the more I do, but it was surprisingly fun sat talking to a video camera, and I will definitely be back at the end of February to wrap up all the books that I've been reading. Thanks for watching.